So, episode 4 of the Bad Batch is here, and we need to break it down. So, let's get straight into it. We begin the episode with Omega and Crosshair trying to get control of their failing ship, and in the background, we can see the word in aurebesh stating power, indicating the failing power levels. The two exit hyperspace, and their ship rapidly descends onto the planet. And a great part about this episode is the visual details. From the scenery to the smoke, you can tell a tremendous amount of effort has been put into making this visually stunning. We can see just before the consoles of the ship fizzle out a map of the surrounding area illustrating the proximity of the ship to the nearest settlement, which is why Crosshair knows where to go immediately following the crash. Omega tells Crosshair that they need to extract the coordinates of Tantiss so that they can rescue the rest of the clones, but Crosshair isn't so keen on the plan. Again, continuing a character interaction dynamic established in an earlier episode with Crosshair more self-centered and Omega being extremely caring for others. Hemlock has a quick chat with Nala Se and he informs her of Omega's successful escape. Nala Se claims that Omega's test result was a false positive, meaning that the validity of the results is still in question. Hemlock is understandably unconvinced, and it's pretty much guaranteed that this is not a false positive, and so if it does turn out that it was not a false positive, you can be assured that Nala Se will be executed soon after. Omega, Crosshair, and Badger sneak around the settlement, and we see an astromech droid selling some fruit as well as some meiloorun's in the foreground. The two pick up some disguises and attempt to find a transport at the spaceport, however they soon found out that they need to get past a control point. Crosshair offers his usual way of handling problems, but Omega decides to try a softer route. And the reason for Omega's decision to not use violence not only stems from her aversion to using violence, but also harkens back to a key pillar of her character, which is that of a tactician. In the previous seasons, we have seen repeatedly, especially with Omega's dejarik skills, that she is a naturally talented tactician. And so being the tactician that she is, she's able to see the bigger picture. Resorting to violence in this case may get them a ship quicker, but it will also immediately alert the Empire to their presence and possibly track them down to their next stop, which makes it very difficult to meet up safely with Wrecker and Hunter. So it does make sense from a tactical perspective to keep it as covert as possible. Omega talks to the ticketing agent, and we learn that for them to board a ship, they need chain codes. Chain codes in Star Wars are basically a form of identification, and were actually first introduced by the Empire way back in Season 1 of the show.
For individual chain code, every citizen can exchange their invalid currency for imperial credits.
Omega tries to bribe the official, who then demands 30,000 credits for passage. We see a kid selling a fruit called Cachu, which kinda looks like a meiloorun as well. They head into a cantina to see if Omega can earn some quick cash, and Omega ends up playing a card game which just might be sabaac. An imperial officer by the name of Mann shows up to collect bribes from the barkeep, another example of the prevalence of imperial corruption. Captain Mann challenges Omega to a game, but when she handily defeats him, he demands 10,000 credits in fines for illegal gambling. Again, really just scummy behavior. Despite this, Omega and Crosshair emerge with 35,000 credits. It then turns out that Badger was kidnapped by the Imperials, and there is a moment of tension when Omega wants to go and save him, but Crosshair insists on leaving the dog behind. And by this point, Omega kinda has had enough of Crosshair's self-centered nature and goes off on her own. It's important to note that while this is a difference in character nature, it also reveals Omega's strong emotional attachments to those she forms bonds with, something which starts to change Crosshair's initial thoughts about such things, as demonstrated later with his reversal and decision to help Omega rescue Badger. This is a sign that things are turning around for the sniper and for the right reasons. Omega finds Badger locked up amidst a bunch of other animals, and while Crosshair arrives to help Omega, Captain Mann predicts their intentions following the discovery of their crashed ship. Omega finally gives Crosshair permission to act, and in the ensuing conflict, you will notice that Crosshair is struggling a little bit with getting rid of the stormtroopers. This is very likely due to the tremors he is experiencing in his hands, a side effect of his treatment under Hemlock. Captain Mann tries to stop them, but he ends up getting caught by a tentacled creature. This is very likely a Rathar, the same beast seen in The Force Awakens that Han Solo and Chewbacca were transporting. And there is a great moment just before they take off where we see the engines of the ship and the energy generated starting to push the wind around the stormtrooper's mask. It's a really small but cool detail that really adds to the visual experience of this episode. Another point to note is that this stormtrooper's helmet is beginning to resemble even more closely to the design that we know in the later Imperial eras, signaling the beginning of another transition. The two manage to get off the planet, but we quickly see that Hemlock is right on their heels. Hemlock instructs Scorch to contact all their operatives, which might include the involvement of Fennec Shan,
Track the ship and notify all our operatives.
who, as we know, will appear in a later episode in the season. They meet up with Wrecker and Hunter, and it's a heartfelt reunion for the team. But just as Crosshair steps out, there is an undeniable sad tension between the members, a tension that will need Omega's help to resolve. As this episode seems to be setting up, Omega will be the glue that binds them all together, helping them smooth over past grievances, whatever they may be. And I have to say that the cinematography of this episode is simply fantastic. Anyways, that's all for this breakdown. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. I'm the Lost Acolyte,
and I have spoken.